Good evening and thank you for joining us. Jack, we've been following the Extreme most of the season and they had a pretty good season to set the stage for these playoffs.
They did, and they're hoping to continue that momentum going into the playoffs, which start on Friday. We have more on that coming up in sports.
Fantastic. And Shauna had a beautiful day today, incredibly hot out there. What are we looking forward to?
Well, still for another nice evening, but there is a system making its way into our regions. But as we take a look now across the Midwest region, we're looking at 25 degrees, very calm winds, a UV index of 7 or better. How does that compare to across the region? Lakeland, similar story. And currently in the Battlefords, very warm there, 26 degrees with quite a bit of cloud cover. So we've made it halfway through the week. What is our weekend going to look like? I'll have the full weather forecast coming up a little later on.
One man has died after an ATV rollover near Meadow Lake late yesterday afternoon. Crews responded just before 5 o'clock and found a man at a rural area just south of the city, pinned under the 2006 Yamaha Rhino that he was operating. They say it appears he tried to take a sudden turn which caused the quad to shift onto two wheels and then flip over. The Meadow Lake coroner pronounced the victim dead on scene. RCMP say he wasn't wearing a helmet or a seatbelt. The name of the deceased is not being released at the family's request. Meadow Lake RCMP said the investigation into the crash continues. Well, mosquitoes are a big enough problem already, but you may need to start thinking about protecting yourself from something more serious, West Nile virus. Alberta Health Services has issued a precaution as July and August temperatures contribute to ideal conditions for the species that carry the virus to thrive. While there are no reported cases yet, Kathy Lee tells us what symptoms to look out for.
It doesn't matter who you ask. Someone in the border city seems to have a complaint about mosquitoes.
Those big mosquitoes, they just descend on you when you get out here. And you have to spray about every half hour to keep them off.
They get in the way when you're trying to go for a walk across a school field or even in the backyard. Turning on the tap, you just wake up all these mosquitoes and it's a nuisance.
To make matters worse, now Alberta Health Services say West Nile virus could be a potential problem as the summer progresses.
Well, it is a bit unpredictable, and previous years have shown that, but the concern is that somewhere between the middle of July and the middle of August there could be a risk of infection.
Culex tarsalis is a species carrying the virus and requires 3 conditions to thrive.
Warm temperatures, access to the young birds, and a little bit of rainfall can produce the right conditions if they occur at the right time for transmission by that species.
Most people affected don't have symptoms, but there are 2 types of syndromes from the virus, neurological and non-neurological, and people over 65 are at greater risk of infection.
Put a little on your neck too, because I see a mosquito there.
Last year saw 1 case of the infection and 2007 saw 320. And while there are no reported cases yet, it's recommended to protect yourself.
Avoid going out at dusk or dawn to the extent possible. Avoid wet, grassy areas if possible, and apply insect repellents.
But even with the precaution in effect, for these ladies, they don't seem particularly concerned about the virus.
I've heard of extreme cases, but I don't think it's a prevalent problem, so I'm not too worried.
Not at all. I spray myself. Should be good for a few more years.
Kathy Lee, Newcap News.
Employment opportunities are on the rise for Lakeland residents and businesses. As Clayton Brown explains, Cenovus is currently in the middle of a big expansion, and the company's operations in the oil sands at Foster Creek are growing.
Construction is underway at Foster Creek for a 3-phase expansion. Cenovus is growing its production operations over the next 6 years.
Each one of the 3 phases, phase F, G, and H, will add somewhere between 30 and 35,000 barrels of oil per day capacity to our existing operation here, which is currently running at 100 to 120,000 barrels a day.
And that's good news for the Lakeland region, as oilfield employment and business will continue to be on the rise.
During the construction phase, there'll be a significant workforce out here. Following the construction, there'll be definitely increased opportunities for full-time, long-term operational positions out here.
The current operations already support local contractors, right from caterers and janitors for the camps to maintenance and support staff for the actual operations.
Essentially, by 2017, we'll be at double the capacity we're at today, so that really just means double the amount of maintenance, double the amount of activity that we'll need up here for sure.
Cenovus continues to expand its technology as well. The operations consist of steam-assisted gravity drainage to extract the oil from the sands. They're also capable of recycling nearly all the water used.
The lower the steam-oil ratio, that just means the less fuel gas you need to consume to produce a barrel of oil, which in turn means fewer emissions, smaller footprint of the plant.
The expansions are expected to be completed by 2017. In Foster Creek, Clayton Brown, Newcap News.
Alberta drivers hoping to knock demerit points off their record have a new way to do so. The Alberta Motor Association is now giving people the option to reduce points from the comfort of their own couches. But as Rob Buffum reports, some people are concerned the new system may have some glitches.
It's nothing new for drivers who are penalized for infractions like speeding or running red lights to have those penalties reduced.
Defensive driving courses have been going on for years. There's local companies that were offering them all the way through the year. Guys would take them. Once they completed the course, they'd bring the certificate from the school back to us, and we would have the points removed off the system.
But the AMA has now introduced an online course that allows drivers to remove up to 3 points from their abstract without attending a class in person. It's a cyber convenience that Wilson fears comes with a potential pitfall.
It's an easier way for people to be able to access it, no doubt. My only concern with a lot of the stuff that happens online is that the individual that is truly sitting there getting the points reduced off of his license.
According to the AMA, they have put safeguards in place to address this threat.
Be committing fraud for one thing. There will be a disclaimer at the beginning saying that you are the person that is doing the program, and then there will be a number of questions that will come up randomly that you would have to answer that will identify you as that person.
The online course takes a minimum of 6.5 hours to complete and costs $99. Likely a bargain for drivers facing license suspensions for accumulating more than 15 points in 2 years. Robert Buffum, Newcap News.